Hi, it's me. So, speed completion, right? Hollow Knight Silksong is a game with an absurd amount of content in it, and most players' first time getting to the final boss took around 30 hours to do so, myself included. So getting 100% completion within 30 hours does not sound like an easy task. But, much like completing any ending within 5 hours, routing is the number one thing that will make an achievement like this easier, especially if you've already familiarized yourself with the game's controls. So, in the Speedrunner achievement guide, I avoided talking about any skips in the game. This time, I'm going to show off a few because they are rather easy to do overall and do save a lot of time. I'm also going to explain the mist better because I didn't do that very well last time. This is going to be a much longer guide than last time for obvious reasons. So to start off, this guide will be spoiling the entirety of Hollow Knight Silksong, including the vast majority of optional content. And I'm going to be doing so pretty much instantly. With that warning out of the way, the first thing we need to do is identify everything we need to obtain to get a 100% in this game. There are a variety of things you need to do to reach 100% completion. Here is the list of everything that counts towards it. You need to obtain all mask shards, obtain all silk spools, obtain all silk hearts, bind all crests and the Silksong, learn the Beastling Call, obtain the Everbloom, obtain all needle upgrades, learn all silk skills, obtain all crafting kit and tool pouch upgrades, learn all ancestral abilities, obtain all tools, and once all of the above is completed, you must defeat the final boss in the Abyss to earn the achievement. In order to do all of these things, we will have to fulfill almost every wish, purchase every map from Chakra, obtain every Memory Locket, and rescue every Flea. To my knowledge, these are all the things you must do to reach 100% completion. There is also a variety of things that I know you don't need to do for 100%. Those include completing the Hunter's Journal, collecting all 8 mementos, fully decorating your house, fighting all bosses, or upgrading any tools that can be upgraded. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about routing. The routing here is going to look very similar to the 5-hour run at first, so I recommend watching the other video before this one in case you need a refresher. I'll stop when we reach something of note, and otherwise we're just going to be speeding through this part. The biggest difference is to gather any loose rosaries and unlocking the maps and bellways as we go, since we'll need to travel, and as for the compass, just buy it whenever, honestly, it's a pretty cheap item. So let's begin. Progress through Moss Grotto. Okay, we already have to briefly stop here. Pogoing off of this moss fly to get this moss berry is a time save at the beginning of the run, but you can always come back and get it later if you're willing to skip completing the Moss Druid's quest to start out. Defeat the Moss Mother, progress through the Marrow and open the gate. You can technically skip this part, but it's not going to matter in the long run. Collect the Coral Commandment from that hidden wall, learn the Silk Spear. One new thing to do here is to accept and complete the wish from the Moss Druid. We can even complete it right now since we'll be going down and collecting the first spool fragment, now since it'll be faster to get these two things here. Also, before leaving this area, I recommend purchasing and equipping the Magnetite Brooch and make collecting rosaries much easier. Defeat the Bell Beast. Take a little time to pick up the Straight Pin, Craft Metal, and Shard Pendant from this area since they'll help to speed up some things later on. Progress to and through Deep Docks, defeat the Scar Enemy Arena, learn the Swift Step, free the Flea just after the Swift Step, defeat Lace, progress through Far Fields, grab the Warding Bell, accept the wish from the Seamstress, collect Flexile Spines as normal, complete the Seamstress's wish, collect the Mask Shard near the Seamstress's house since there really won't be a better time to get it in this run as it turns out, defeat Fourth Chorus. Okay, so in the 5-hour run you can technically skip this fight by just sprinting, jumping to the left, floating briefly, healing in midair, and then floating and dashing over. That said, for 100% completion, you do need to defeat the Fourth Chorus anyway to get another wish later on, so you may as well do it right now. Progress up to Greymoor, grab the Bone Scroll, defeat this enemy arena, go up the second windmill, get the Crest of the Reaper since now it'll be easy to get, defeat Moorwing, enter Bellheart, navigate through Shellwood, accept the rite of the Polyp Wish on the way through, collect the Mask Shard. Okay, now it's time to explain the first major speedrun skip in Garama Skip if you want to skip the Sister Splinter fight in its entirety. You can taunt in this game, which lures enemies towards you. It's fairly useless in a casual playthrough, but you can use it to lure this fascia around this wall and pogo off of it to get the cling grip early. This completely skips the Sister Splinter fight, and there is really no reason to ever go back into that room, so you never need to fight her. You can also get the first 2 polyp parts here as you collect the cling grip, so you may as well. Navigate the tunnels above Belheart, freeing this Flea while here because spoilers, you never need to come back to this room. Briefly exit to the left so you can collect the 3rd polyp part, and if you die to Widow, this also serves as a shortcut back to the bench. Yes, I did die to Widow in this run. Defeat Widow, turn in your collectibles and buy the Bellway and First Needle upgrade, grab any wishes from the wish wall, go back to Greymoor, save Krat from his hole, because we'll need to save all the fleas anyways, navigate Sinner's Road, enter the Mist. So a more in-depth way onto how this area works. The first 2 rooms you will always have to play your needle in at a group of flies to know which door to take. Then, in the 3rd room, if there is a door to either the left or right, it will always be the correct path. This will also be true of the next room if you don't have that option in the 3rd room. After the halfway point, you need to play your needle in for 1 more group of flies, then at any point after, if there is a right exit to the room you end up in that isn't the door you came from, it will always be the final exit you need to take. Enter the exhaust organ. There's this little room with silk here that you can go through the wall, exit the exhaust organ through it, and free the Flea that's beyond the door right now because we're never coming back here. Defeat Phantom, grab the Memory Locket, pay for the Coral Chamber's Bellway, climb up to Songclave, you need to activate this bench. Grab the white key from Songclave, defeat the Cogwork Dancers, enter the Whispering Vaults, navigate the area and collect the Mask Shard here, collect the Pale Oil, open the shortcut into the stage, return to Belheart and upgrade your needle again, and if you have at least 200 shell shards, also go back to Bone Bottom and complete the donation quest. Defeat Trobio, enter the Underworks, save the Flea that's left of the main path toward the claw line. Obtain the craft metal from the room just before the room with the claw line, and yes, I did end up dying here during my run. Navigate to the claw line and claim it, collect the spool fragment at the bottom of that huge pit in the Underworks, go under the elevator and collect the Sacred Psalm cylinder, then learn the Vault Keeper's melody. And here is officially where the route is going to deviate from before. We will not be going into Cogwork Core right now, or High Halls. We will instead be going to the Slab. Make sure to pick up the Grand Gourmand's wish on the way, and you should try to have enough rosaries to get the Bellway in the Slab. But basically, we now need to unlock the Fey Down cloak so we have every movement ability before fighting Grandmother Silk for the first time. From this point on, it is fastest to go to each area one by one and do everything there that you can each time. And to start off, we're going to look at Mount Fey. There is not a lot to do in Mount Fey on your first visit, not that there's much here to begin with. Play through it the way you normally would, remembering to grab the Flea around the halfway point. Then, finish climbing the mountain and collect the Fey Down cloak, the last movement ability you need. Once you have it, slide down the back of the mountain in the very bottom, grabbing the Mask Shard from inside the pillar, and breaking through the wall by the bench to grab the Crystal Memory Tool. And that's it for this visit. So return to the Bellway in the Slab, free the Flea that's above the bench, and travel to Bone Bottom. The next place we're going to head to is Weavenest Atla. Use your needle in to get inside and progress until you can upgrade your Hunter's Crest at Ava. There is a handful of things to collect here. Firstly, collect the Moss Berry and defeat the dual battle with Moss Mothers to collect the Weave Light tool. Then, wall jump up the right wall and enter the hidden areas to collect the Spool Fragment, Snare Setter, Rune Harp, and Mask Shard. That's all there is to do here for now, so climb out of Moss Grotto and wall jump up the far left wall of Bone Bottom to reach the Chapel of the Wanderer. Defeat the enemy arena there and bind the crest of the Wanderer, then return to Bone Bottom and accept all the wishes on the wish wall. You really want to buy out the shop if you can, but if you can't get everything, purchase the simple key here. Ride the elevator up and proceed to the left, collecting the Weaver effigy and then entering Wormways using that simple key. Wormways is a very small area. We're here to complete the wish to collect Plasmium in order to earn the Plasmium Needle tool, so grab the Mask Shard at the start and proceed by going up to Xylotl and accepting the wish. Collect all the Plasmium deposits, but before completing the wish, make sure you also get the Sharp Dart skill and the Memory Locket at the bottom of the area. Upon turning in the wish, also rescue the Flea behind the hidden wall in the exit, and obtain the other tool in the Dead Bug's purse on the way out. In the hilly area outside of Wormways, make sure to save the merchant and go back to talk to the Moss Druid to sell that Mossberry you picked up, and also to pick up the Mossberry Stew for the Grand Gourmand, then travel all the way up and head back into Shellwood using the exit at the top of this room. There's very little left to do in Shellwood. Start by collecting the remaining 3 polyp hearts and also the long pin from outside of Belheart. Turn in the right of the polyp quest and make sure to talk to Wormroot again to collect the polyp pouch. Then go into the tunnels below Belheart and collect the 8 silver bells for that side quest. You literally just have to wait for them to appear, so collect anything you missed before and get comfortable. Then exit at the bottom of the area into the Marrow. There is quite a bit to do in the Marrow. You'll need to collect the 3 flint gems around the place before leaving, and also go up into this top room where there is both a Memory Locket and a Flea to rescue. Complete the target practice minigame in the prison to gain your first tool pouch increase, then go into the center of the area and fight the Skull Tyrant so you can complete that quest later. Once those things are done, quickly duck into Deep Docks in order to complete an enemy arena with a Mask Shard as a reward, then break the wall at the back of the Bellway to save the Flea behind it. Now return to the Marrow and enter into Hunter's March. Hunter's March starts out with a Flea, but then you need to progress through most of the area to find anything else. Once you reach the bench and disarm the trap with it, just start by defeating the enemies in the top room to grab the Curve Claw, then proceed through the secret wall in the other room to find the Fractured Mask. Both of these would be sold at a shop if you came here before reaching the Citadel, so you save a lot of rosaries by doing this later. Next thing to do is obtain the Memory Locket at the bottom of the area, then progress into the Chapel of the Beast, defeat the Savage Beastfly and bind the Crest of the Beast, then unequip that shit as soon as you can because it is very bad. Now that you've cleared out all of the nearby areas, return to the Flea Caravan in the Marrow and fulfill the wish, then ride with the Flea Caravan to Greymoor and claim the Flea Brew from them. Greymoor is the area with the most stuff for us to grab right now. We'll start briefly ducking back into Belheart to grant some wishes, then going through the exit on the right of the Flea Caravan and grabbing the Memory Locket that is down there. Then, we should have enough journal entries by now to complete New's wish, grab the Memory Locket located in the halfway house, then pay the barkeep and complete the enemy gauntlet in the basement for the Vintage Nectar. Collecting the pelts from the Craw enemies will happen very quickly thanks to our next destination being Craw Lake. You'll need to complete the enemy battle inside in order to activate the balloons, as it will allow us to obtain the rest of the items in the zone. Specifically above Craw Lake, there is a Flea to rescue, the 3-fold pin to collect from a hidden hole in the wall, and the Thread Storm skill to learn at the very top of the area. Once those things have been done, return to the left above the halfway house and go up and to the right in order to cross the path that will eventually lead to a spool fragment. This is the last item in the area that you need, so then progress back to the halfway house, turn in the quest, and then proceed up to Sinner's Road. Sinner's Road is thankfully a very small area. The first thing you'll want to do is progress to that one really awful room, rescue the second merchant, and accept the Roach Guts wish from Benjen and Krull. Once you have it, proceed down into the right of the area in order to collect the Barbed Bracelet, then go upwards from there in order to face off against disgraced Chef Lugoli. You need to defeat him in order to obtain the Pickled Muck Maggot for the Grand Gourmand. Once Lugoli is defeated, go up into the right of the area. There is a Flea here to save. You should also climb up to the top of the area and obtain your second simple key. You don't need to free the Green Prince for this achievement, so we'll be using it later. Then proceed through the hidden wall on the right and enter into Bile Water. Bile Water is an area we will be visiting again later, but for now our main goal is to purchase the map from Chakra so she leaves. Purchase any other maps from her that you can as well, so you can have all of them in order to activate her quest for later. We'll also be obtaining a Memory Locket from this area, freeing a single Flea, and entering the area's Weave Nest in order to receive the Broken Part. While it is best to get these things now, you're going to be visiting this area again later, so don't fret too much if you miss out. Once you unlock the Bellway and have purchased Chakra's map, exit back to Sinner's Road through the exhaust organ, return to Benjen and Krull to collect your tax, and then return to Belheart and claim any remaining wishes you can. Remember that you need to talk to the town crier to activate the donation quests, and now proceed over to Blasted Steps. Blasted Steps does not have a huge deal of items to collect, oddly enough. Start by going all the way to the left at the bottom of the area and collecting the Mask Shard in the cave up above. Grab the Memory Locket on the way up the mountain, and be sure to purchase Chakra's map. Then, progress to the fight against the Great Conch Flies and win, and learn the Pinstress's needle art. Instead of continuing in blasted steps, progress upwards outside the Pinstress's house in order to enter the sands of Karak, as we'll be doing it now. The goal for this area is to reach the top of the sands and open the shortcut leading down to the Blasted Steps Bellway. Collect the Memory Locket early in the area, then progress upwards and be sure to purchase the final map from Chakra and rescuing the first Flea. Grab the simple key at the bench. This will be the last simple key needed for the run, then proceed through one more room and knock down the giant red stalactite. Explore the room on the left to collect the crust nut, then proceed straight down, rescuing the Flea at the top of Blasted Steps, and grabbing the magnetic dice from the dead end, then unlock the Blasted Steps Bellway. Now is the best time to do the Courier's Rasher delivery since you have all 4 of the other ingredients. The route up through Exhaust Organ is the one I prefer to take, as you have to go through it several times, and should be familiar with it by now. Once you finish the delivery, return to Bellheart and purchase the next needle upgrade, then return to Blasted Steps. All that's left to do here is collect the craft medal just before the boss, and then defeating the last judge in order to enter the Underworks. There are only 3 items to collect inside Underworks on this visit. The first is the spool fragment found after a short enemy arena around the center of the area. The second is a memory locket found above the ceiling in the bench room at the top center, and the last is the Delver's Drill, only obtainable once you've traversed the entire left side of the Underworks for the first time. Then proceed up into Coral Chambers as normal. Entering the Coral Chambers from this side provides a very good opportunity to collect the spool fragment located above the Grand Gate by breaking through the floor. Then, take a minute to rescue the merchant from the small room up and to the left from the White Ward entrance, and our next destination is White Ward, so just jump right into it. White Ward is probably the most straightforward area in the game, though you unfortunately can't complete it all on the first visit. Progress through as normal until you open up the route back to the elevator shaft, then climb back up and hit the elevator call button, making sure to fall back into the hallway in the shaft before the elevator can rise up. This is to get the spool fragment from underneath the elevator shaft. The injector band is right along the main path, so it isn't hard to get, and the only other thing to do is to make sure you pick up the surgeon's key for our return visit later. Then fall down into the Underworks. Now is a good opportunity to purchase whatever you can from the architect, and if you've been following along up to this point, then purchasing 2 of her tools will allow you to buy the architect's key, allowing you to bind the crest of the architect. This is the best time to get it. Afterwards, board the elevator and ride it up to the first shrine. The Memoriam is an area that doesn't have a great route through other than the standard route up. Start by completing the first bell puzzle for the first Cogheart piece, then traveling upwards and past these thorns in order to obtain the Memory Locket here. Once you reach the room with the Materium, jump through the wall and defeat some enemies in order to obtain the Volt Vessels. Then keep going up to free the huge Flea at the top of the area. Travel back down on the left side in order to obtain another spool fragment, then go all the way to the right to the room with the map in it, jump through the ceiling, and cross the bridge in order to enter my least favorite area, the Putrified Ducts. Putrified Ducts is awful to navigate. If you're like me and can't afford the Bellway here, don't worry. You'll get an opportunity to later. The first step is to progress through to the left in order to pick up the Key of the Apostate, as well as accept the quest from the Huntress. We have all the tools needed for it, and you should start working on it right away. You have Long Pin for skewered meat, either cogwheels or Delver's Drill for shredded meat, and Volt Vessels for seared meat. Then go all the way to the right, be sure to read the sign by playing your needle in, and cross the lake to find another piece of craft metal. Return by going through the hidden wall at the top of the last room. Not only will you find the Wreath of Purity here, but you'll also free Vogue so she can join the Flea caravan later. Continuing with our completion of the Citadel, there's a handful of things remaining in the Coral Chambers. The first is a Flea hidden in a wall in one of the areas you have to climb up. The second is another Flea trapped inside a cage in a dead-end room. And finally, we have our second bell puzzle in order to collect the second Cogheart piece. If you haven't finished the wish to collect fine pins, this is also a good opportunity to do that. Once those things are done, proceed up into the high halls. This area is incredibly linear, so go through as normal, collecting the spool fragment at the very top of the first upward tower. When going down towards the arena, be sure to use a craft metal to create the cogflies. Use a simple key to open up the vault for a bunch of extra rosaries, and also to collect the rosary cannon. And while you aren't quite fully equipped, this is a really good opportunity to complete the enemy arena in order to learn the conductor's melody. Take a moment to head back into Songclave and pick up any wishes that are left on the wish wall. The next thing we're doing is picking up two things in Whispering Vaults we didn't pick up before. The first is the final Cogheart piece from the last Bell puzzle, and the second is a flea at the top of a room where you push the same block around a lot. Now that we have all the Cogheart pieces, go down into Cogwork Core and exit to the left. Climb up the wall and put the Cogheart into Second Sentinel to activate her, then complete the enemy arena in the same room to pick up a Mask Shard. Go down to the bottom of the core and defeat the Cogwork Clapper in order to claim another Spool Fragment, and after that, climb up to the top of the Cogwork Core as normal to learn the Architect's Melody. Now that we have all the melodies, return to the Whispering Vaults and jump up through the corner in the far right room, being careful not to fall into Bile water just yet. Once you make it outside, climb up to the right wall in order to find yet another flea. Now, proceed back down and fall into Bile water. The reason that we have to enter Bile water from this side is that it's the only way to obtain the Twisted Bud, which we will need in order to obtain the Witch's Crest. Be sure to grab it, and then use the Bellway to return to Bellheart and accept Chakra's wish so that you don't need to make another trip to Bilewater later. The first item to collect here is the Quick Sling from the breakable ceiling above where Chakra was originally located. If you proceed to the right across the water with the jumping maggots, there's also a Mask Shard to collect. Next up is a Memory Locket hidden within a bag at the end of the long room with the jumping mushroom dudes. Once you enter into the area that starts to have traps, there is a flea hidden at the top of the wall in an area to save. Be sure to use the hidden bench here as well to avoid an even more frustrating run back in case you die to the boss. Proceed to the top right of the entire region and into the cave that Chakra opened in order to fulfill her wish and receive the throwing rings. Once you've completed Chakra's wish, go left and defeat the enemy arena in order to face off against Growl the Great. Once he's defeated, grab the Seeker's Soul from the hut after the area. If you have enough of the various meats by now, you should also go up into Putrified Ducts and complete Huntress's quest in order to receive the Longclaw, though you'll have another chance later on as well. Next, either progress to the Bellway in Putrified Ducts, or go back to the one in Bilewater, and use it to head to the Deep Docks. When we finally go back to complete Deep Docks, the first thing you want to do is purchase and equip the Magma Bell so that we don't need to worry as much about fire damage. I routed it this late so that we can get all the fire areas knocked out one by one. Once you have it, proceed through the locked door using your simple key. The flint slate is tucked in the top left corner of the second tall room that you come to here. In the next room, there is a craft metal in the lower left corner past some guys that will throw exploding rocks at you. The bottom right of this area features some precise platforming above lava in which you are rewarded a spool fragment if you complete it. There is also an enemy arena that you can complete that has a flea to rescue as your reward. From that point, progress through the boss fight against Cygnus and Gron, then go past the hidden wall in order to uncover a Memory Locket. Be sure to open up the shortcut to the Diving Bell as it will help out quite a lot once we get into Act 3. Then, when you return upwards, there is a large room on the right that has yet another spool fragment to collect. Before leaving to Far Fields, while you may be tempted to purchase the last of Forged Daughter's stock, remember that talking to her a second time forces her to add the Silk Shot to her inventory, and that you need to save at least one craft metal in order to make another tool in an upcoming area. Up next is Far Fields, and everything we need to access can be reached by following the secret exit behind the Bellway. Travel until an exit opens up leading down to the Seamstress's house. Collect the Bone Scroll in the hidden alcove up above if you haven't, then proceed to the right and jump up into the cave on the high ledge. Defeat the enemy arena at the bottom and then climb all the way back up in order to receive a Mask Shard. Even further to the right, you can enter the Weave Nest and by running along the floor panels receive the Silk Speed Anklets. If you equip them and then drink a Flea Brew before running across again, you can also receive a Rune Harp here for extra rosaries. Just to the left of the Seamstress's house, you should also encounter and defeat the Savage Beastfly again in order to collect its horn. Then, go back up above the Seamstress's house and continue upwards in the path you came from in order to find and rescue a flea. There is also a great opportunity to buy out the shop in Pilgrim's Rest if you can and don't want to come back to this part of the area again. Lastly, further to the left, you can rescue one more flea from an ant cage, then return to the Beltway and travel to Belheart to turn in all of your quests. We're now going to go give the Twisted Bud to Wormroot in order to infest ourselves with a parasite. Once we have it, it's time to head over to Greymoor one more time. Curing yourself of the parasite is quite straightforward. First, while in the area where the doctor is, you may as well go upwards and use a craft metal in order to obtain the Pimpillo. Then, speak to Yarnaby about getting the parasite removed. You'll need to run over to Sinner's Road and speak to Benjamin and Krul again in order to purchase the steel spines, then return in order to receive the Crest of the Witch. Now you should go above the windmills and travel over, freeing the flea that is up there and then traveling upwards into the Wisp Thicket. Wisp Thicket has very little in it. Start by freeing the bench, then traveling to the right of the area in order to obtain both a bone scroll and a mask shard. By traveling all the way to the left, you will encounter the Father of the Flame, and defeating him will earn you the Wispfire Lantern tool. Progressing upwards will allow you to claim the final craft metal that isn't in a shop, and then by exiting to Underworks, you can free a flea over on the left side of the room. Lastly, we have the Slab. Now that we have the key of the Apostate, we can fully explore the area outside the Beltway. Travel upwards into the main area, grabbing the other keys as you go. There is a flea in a side room that you'll have to free. It is the final flea left in the game. There is also a mask shard in the top right room that you'll have to do some tricky platforming for. Once you've obtained the key of the Heretic from the enemy arena, you can progress downward and collect one more spool fragment, then go even further down and enter the hidden ceiling in order to fight First Sinner. This fight is a tough one, but you need to do it in order to unlock the Rune Rage skill. And this is the last area that we have now fully explored. From this point onward, all that's left to do is to complete the remaining quests from the Wish Walls. If you've been following along, the next thing to do is to help Second Sentinel in 2 different fights to unlock her wish, then going up to the High Halls and defeating her in combat. This will reward you with the Reserve Bind tool. Next up is to go into the White Ward and proceed through so you can save Sherma. This will grant you one more spool fragment. This is also the best point in the run that you could use the Surgeon's Key in order to fight the Unraveled for your second Silk Heart, but you should do so after freeing Sherma since it will force you out into the Underworks after you defeat it. We also have to return to the bridge between the Memoriam and the Putrified Ducts in order to rescue the Merchant yet again, which is a fairly easy and quick objective. After clearing the Slab and resting in a bench, you'll also get a mission to return to the Slab in order to defeat the Broodmother and obtain her eye. It's not too difficult of a fight, so just complete it and turn in the mission. And since you've freed all the fleas, you can now have the flea caravan travel to Blasted Steppes. Then after you use the Beltway one more time, have them travel up to the lake in Putrified Ducts. Talk to Mushka until you receive the Egg of Flelia from him once in Fleetopia. This is also the other opportunity to obtain the Long Claw from Huntress if you haven't. Once all of those things are done, head up to the Cradle and defeat Lace for the second time, collecting your last Silk Heart. Open up the shortcut in the Cradle, then return to Songclave and speak to the Caretaker in order to obtain the Silk and Soul mission. Collect the souls from the Ruined Chapel and Belheart before returning, and then once the trap is set, defeat Grandmother Silk and use the Needlein to bind her spirit to enter Act 3. The fastest way to complete Act 3 is to progress until you learn the Song of the Deep before going for anything else. Step 1 is escaping the Cradle by completing the enemy battle at the bottom. Then travel down to the Grand Beltway in order to fight the Bell Eater. Once he's defeated, you learn the Beastling's Call, which will enable easier ways to travel around the world. Immediately travel to Bone Bottom. If you plan on using the Hunter's Crest, it would be a good idea to use all the memory lockets you can in order to convince Ava to upgrade it right now, then confront the Snail Shamans. Then go speak to the Forge Daughter's assistant in order to gain access to the Diving Bell. Travel down into the Abyss. This area is very straightforward, but you want to make sure you pick up the Arcane Egg from the only optional room in the area, and also the Farsight at the very end of the zone. Once you learn the ability to super jump, return to the top of the Abyss and complete the escape sequence like normal. Upon returning to the Snail Shamans, they will teach you the Song of the Deep. Before leaving their hut, however, you should use your newfound super jump in order to enter the back of the Ruined Chapel and bind the Crest of the Shaman, which is the final crest of the game. At this point, we can go back to both Belheart and Songclave and accept all of their quests except for the one to rematch Trobio, since you already have the percentage point from the Claw Mirror. The first thing to do is to return to the cradle in order to bind the Pale Nails skill from the destroyed arm of Grandmother Silk. This is the final Silk skill in the game, and it's really easy to obtain, but also easy to miss. Then, travel up to the Putrified Ducts and begin the Festival of the Flea. You need to beat the records of every minigame in order to receive your final Pale Oil, and you'll also get quite a few rosaries in the process. In order to use the Pale Oil, you need to first read the note on the Pin Master's house, then travel to the end of Shellwood in order to defeat the enemy arena to rescue him. As for the Dark Hearts quest, you'll probably need to go out of your way to find a few, but several will be on the required path from this point on. The next place we have to explore is Far Fields, but you'll have to travel to the Marrow in order to get there. Fight your way through Hunter's March in order to use your new super jump at the statue, unlocking the path leading to the last area of Far Fields. Be sure to speak to Gilly at least one time so that her quest can appear on the Belheart Wish Wall. Then go all the way to the right into the Sprint Master's home. You need to defeat him in 3 races in order to earn a Mask Shard. Then travel upwards and to the right to enter the area where Scarsinger Carmelita is waiting. The fight is probably the hardest in the entire game, and while it'd be nice to have max upgrades for it, there isn't a more efficient route through this area. It may take some tries, but eventually you'll beat her. Once she's defeated, proceed further to the right and defeat the big Void Ant in the corner in order to receive the Memory Locket from this area. Return to Belheart in order to accept Gilly's wish. Remember that the final Memory Locket is at the top of Belheart and can be accessed by using your super jump. Now return to Far Fields and track down Gur the Outcast to defeat him. This quest is necessary for a Mask Shard, and since it never shows up before coming to this section of Far Fields, it's actually impossible to complete this part in a single visit. Now, we head to Blasted Steps. We're immediately going to the Grand Gateway in order to use our super jump to enter the secret area within the elevator shaft. Head through the area and defeat Shrine Guardian Seth, then use your Song of the Deep in order to face off against Nihilith. This is probably the easiest of the dream bosses in the game, and check out this glitch that happened at the end where I died after winning the fight. Once you've defeated Nihilith, go to the Pinstress's house and read the note she left. Then take the Bellway up to the slab. Climb to the center of Mount Fey in order to enter the Bright Vein and secure another Mask Shard, then climb further up the mountain in order to face off against the Pinstress and receive her tool. This is also the best moment to repair the Silk Shop by entering the hidden workshop on the mountain, since it doesn't cost any rosaries this way. If you don't care about that, however, you can give it to the Architect like I did. At this point, you should go around and defeat any remaining Dark Hearts you need for that quest. I've routed it this way so you can have all 10 HP by the time you enter Coral Tower, which happens to be our next destination. Sands of Karak actually has several things left for us to do. First off, climb to where the red stalactite was and super jump through the roof in order to enter the Volt Nest. Navigate your way through and defeat the Volt Worm in order to claim the Volt Filament tool. Then travel the rest of the way through the sands and defeat the Raging Conch Fly. Enter the Coral Tower and claim the Conch Cutter, then enter the real Coral Tower using the Song of the Deep. You really want to make sure you don't die during the enemy encounters going up the tower, since you have to redo the entire thing if you die at any point except for the final enemy arena and the boss. So play it safe if you can, and eventually you'll end up fighting Crust King Khan. Once he's defeated, claim the Encrusted Heart, and now it's time for the most boring part of the entire run. No matter if you've collected every single rosary string and collectible and psalm cylinder, you will not have enough rosaries to purchase everything from the 4 shopkeepers left in the world. So, find your favorite place to do rosary grinding. You'll probably be doing this for around an hour if you're like me and don't know the best spot. But once you have enough rosaries to buy every tool, crafting kit, and spool fragment from the shops, do so and you should be at 98% completion. Once you've purchased everything and turned in every quest that we've taken, return to the Snail Shamans and progress through the Red Memory in order to obtain the Everbloom. Then, return to Weave Nest Atla after using every single Memory Locket and bind Eva in order to obtain the Silksong. If you check your inventory after using the Farsight, you should see that you have a 100% completion. Take the Diving Bell back down to the Abyss. All that's left to do is face off against Lost Lace and complete the game. And hopefully you have completed the game in under half of the allotted time for the achievement. And that's all there is to it. My run completed the game in just under 13 hours, though I was a fool and forgot some things, plus I fumbled the start of the Silk and Soul quest by not fighting Lace in the Cradle. If you want to watch it to play along, the entire run is linked in the description, though I had to upload it in 2 parts because it was too long to process for YouTube. Thank you all for the insane support I received on the 5-hour guide. I was not expecting it to take off as hard as it did, and I genuinely can't be more happy that people are receiving it well. I know this one isn't as descriptive, but there's so much to go over, and getting it into a reasonably sized video is basically impossible. I'd appreciate if you liked and subscribed, as it helps me out a lot. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon.